I'm Mark Halperin. Welcome to Wide World of News. We're with our group here today, 4 who voted for Joe Biden, 4 who voted for Donald Trump. And we're going to talk about what has become a great curiosity to me, which is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, and people's interest in and knowledge of him. So first, folks, raise your hand if you know about Ron DeSantis. Raise your hand if you're familiar with him and what he's done as governor of Florida. Raise your hand. All right. We'll keep them up. Keep them up. All right. So that's everybody but Stephen. Stephen, you're going to sit out this one. Oh, you'll raise your hand too. All right. I figured. Yeah. I want to go around. I want you to tell me 1 or 2 words what you think of Ron DeSantis. 1 or 2 words what you think of Ron DeSantis. Tanya, you live in Florida. I'll start with you. 1 or 2 words about your governor.
I'm kind of surprised because that was not what I expected when he came into office.
All right. We'll come back to that. Edward.
Trump without the Trumpiness.
All right. Sheena.
A great leader and
possibly
a presidential candidate.
Okay. Lynn?
Idiot.
All right. Justin?
I think a great leader and yes, future presidential candidate.
Okay. Adam?
Politically savvy, opportunist, kind of swarmy. But
okay. Christine?
I think he's a good leader and strong.
Okay. Stephen?
I think he's the embodiment of basically what's wrong with the conservative movement now.
All right. Lynn, let me come back to you. You don't like the guy. What has he done, or what have you seen that makes you not like him?
Many things. I think that the way that he handled the pandemic in Florida was shameful. I think he's fortunate that Florida is a state with a warm climate where a lot of
at some level you can say they did a bad job, but you got to check the scoreboard. I mean, he's in the middle. The economy is doing better.
I mean, you have California and Florida, and they have the same numbers basically, and one shut down and the other didn't. And it's like, why is it that California shut down did so horribly, and Florida didn't shut down, but yet they have basically the numbers aren't different. I mean,
there's a bunch of reasons why. I mean, the way population density. Exactly.
He knew what state he was governing. He knew he was the governor of a warm state with the density that it has, right?
But he also didn't know all the science at the time. He did it for political reasons. He wasn't trying to keep anyone safe. He did it because of the way our president.
How do you know that?
How do you know
he wasn't trying to keep people safe?
And I think he did the data. And I think if you really look at it, he is one of the few that did follow the data.
So no politicians want to keep us safe, Stephen. Just to be fair, no politicians want to keep us safe.
Certain politicians.
The idea that he wants his voters
just certain. Okay, that's what I was going for.
That's how it works.
Okay.
Tanya, let me come back to you. What surprised you about the way your governor's governed? And talk a little bit about whether you think Democrats in your state like him or not.
Okay, let me talk about the surprising piece first. For those of you who did not live in Florida, I don't know if you saw all of his political advertisements prior to him becoming governor. He had no platform other than Trump, 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 Trump. That's all he said. I didn't know where he stood on half the issues.
That's all anybody says.
Well, no,
Trump,
that's
Trump,
not
Trump,
true.
Trump.
That's not true. Maybe all the Republican candidates, but I'm an independent, so I'm always looking for what is it they stand for.
Yes.
I would say there are quite a few things that the Democratic voters here were pleased with when he came on board, and it has nothing to do with the pandemic. It has to do with the environment. Environmentally, Florida's got some real issues, particularly down near Lake Okeechobee in that area. And he came on board and kind of did better from an environmental standpoint than what any of us expected him to do. Now, he's got some other issues in some other areas, but we were pleased to see that.
The Democrats in Florida like him?
Yeah, kind of. It's a mixed bag. It just depends on where you are. What is your issue? We live on a lagoon here. We're on the river, and the ocean literally is right across out my front door. So the environment is very important to most Florida voters. So they like that avenue of it. But they kind of had some concerns about how quickly we got our vaccines, how hard and he went straight to Publix instead of opening up CVS and Walgreens.
Right.
So from that vantage point, there were some issues there.
Regardless of who you would support, long way off, but regardless of who you would vote for, if there were a presidential election in 2024 between Vice President Harris and Ron DeSantis, I want to know who you think would win that election. Raise your hand if you think Kamala Harris would win that election. Raise your hand. All right. And raise your hand if you think Ron DeSantis would win that election?
Do I have to
All right.
choose? I don't know.
Yeah, you got to choose. So two of you didn't vote.
That's so far. I could just picture that being even worse than 2020.
I think it depends on how he presents himself. If he presents himself just as he did with the Florida election, Trump, I
Right.
think that would be an issue. If he didn't, if he came out with some of his, because some of his platform is very palatable to a lot of Democratic voters, and I think that would might be
I think he's a very smart guy. I think that was the right
is very
move
smart.
at the right time to get elected.
He's
And
not afraid
he
to make
obviously can't
decisions.
preach Trump because he's got to say turn the page in 2024.
I want to ask the Trump voters one question, the Biden voters another question. For the Trump voters, I'm going to want to ask you to tell me something you don't like about Ron DeSantis. And for the Democrats, the Biden voters, tell me something you do like about him. All right, I'll give you a minute to think about it. Something you don't like about him if you voted for Donald Trump, something you do like about him if you voted for Joe Biden. Christine, what's something you don't like about Ron DeSantis?
I don't know if there's anything I don't like about him, but I will say that, and I'm not, this has nothing to do with Trump. I just think that he's not afraid to make decisions. He's not like bought and sold by somebody.
These are things you like about him. There's nothing you don't like about him. Okay. Justin, anything you don't like about him?
I don't know enough about him, I think, to not like something.
Okay. Edward?
I thought blocking out the local media, doing the Fox News signing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little too cute.
Okay. Sheena?
Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything I don't like about him. I think he's really strong.
Okay. Lynn, what's something you like about him?
I probably don't know enough about him.
All right. Stefan?
Nothing. I
Nothing.
can't think of anything positive.
Adam?
He projects strength. He seems decisive. He projects himself presents himself as a leader. So I give him that.
All right. And Tonya, you've already said you like his record on the environment.
I do like his environment. I do think, though, somebody who said he wasn't bought and sold. I think the things that are going to come out in a national election, the people who are not Florida residents will be surprised about some of the things they hear about him.
Okay. Last question. If Donald Trump doesn't run for president in 2024, raise your hand if you think Ron DeSantis is the person most likely to be the Republican nominee for president. Raise your hand if you think he's the most likely.
Much to Marco Rubio's chagrin.
All right. Everybody, Lynn thinks so. All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again right here soon on Wide World of News.